Hello, everyone, and welcome to What the Future Wellness. My name's Diane Ridgway-Cross, and I'm so pleased you could join us. What the Future is Ipsos Foresight thought leadership platform built to explore the forces reshaping our lives and what they mean for the years ahead. Today, we're asking a really pivotal question. How will Canadians define and spend their wellness in the future? A core message that you'll see as we go throughout the discussion today is that wellness is no longer confined to healthcare. It now cuts across food, it cuts across retail, travel, financial services, technology, and much, much more, becoming really a competitive imperative for every industry. Now, here's how we're going to spend our time today. I'm going to start by sharing a look at fresh, new Ipsos data on wellness in Canada, and then we'll move into a panel discussion to unpack what these signals mean for the future. We're really fortunate to have a diverse group with us today, spanning perspectives on healthcare, technology, youth mental health, workplace wellness, and home. It should be a great conversation. And to that end, I want to welcome our panel. I'm going to introduce them now, and they will be talking to us after the data pulse. So first up, we have Elisa Simon. She's the group head and EVP, E-Mental Health and Transformation and Clinical Services at Kids Help Phone. Welcome, Elisa.
Thanks so much.
We have Samir Dar, founder and CEO of Nia Health, at the forefront of proactive, data-driven digital care. Welcome, Samir.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. We have Paula Allen, global leader of research and insights at TELUS Health, who is really going to be able to talk to us about guiding how employers and organizations address wellness and equity. Paula, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Diane, and happy to be here.
And we have Danielle Ali, Consumer and Customer Insights Lead at IKEA Canada, exploring how the home is becoming a sanctuary for health. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Really glad to be here.
And finally, last but not least, Asad Amin, who leads our syndicated practice here at Ipsos, including our food and beverage panel. And he's going to be speaking about where food and beverage are headed in a food-first wellness era. Asad, welcome aboard.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to it.
Great. Thanks for everyone for being here, and we're going to come back to you shortly, so hang tight. Before we dive into the data, I want to quickly share a bit about who we are. Many of you know Ipsos as one of the world's leading market research firms, but you may not know Strategy3, Ipsos's strategic growth and advisory practice. We're more than 400 consultants across 20 global practice markets. And what we really do is help organizations unlock growth, drive transformation, and plan for the future. I lead the Strategy3 practice here in Canada, and our role is really to bring the best of what Ipsos has from world-class data together with business strategy. And today we'll discuss how to connect the signals that we're going to look at in the wellness data to the choices organizations will need to make for the future. And within Strategy3, one of our fastest growing practice areas is our Trends and Foresight practice. In that group, we help organizations anticipate disruption, interpret long-term forces, and stress test today's choices against tomorrow's realities. So that's a lot of what the future wellness is all about as we look at where we are today, where we're headed, and what the longer-term future looks like. But enough about us. Let's turn to the topic at hand. What does the future of wellness look like in Canada? So first of all, let's start with the big picture. 8 in 10 Canadians say Canada's healthcare system is better than the US system. And yet, at the same time, nearly 3/4 expect Canadian health needs to outpace what our system can provide. And a similar share, almost 3 in 4, or actually 3 in 4, believe our system needs a major overhaul. So what we see here is broad support for a universal single-payer system that cares for everyone. It's very core to who we are, but growing concern about capacity and access. And that's the tension that is going to be central to what's shaping the next decade of wellness here in Canada. In our work, we've started to frame wellness almost as a form of currency, if you will. Think of almost like, can you imagine a daily app that shows a balance, not just in dollars, but healthy years remaining, sleep credits, stress debt, even connection points. All of these things go into total wellness. And maybe by 2035, 10 years from now, we'll be tracking these metrics as closely as we are our bank accounts. It's a shift from wellness kind of as a background to wellness as a daily ledger that guides our choices. So let's dive further into the data of what Canadians think. We just pulled all of this research out of the field, so it's very fresh for us to share. First, we asked Canadians what aspects of healthcare they expect to get better, stay the same, or get worse over the next decade. And what we see is a paradox. If you look at the dark blue bars, we see that 62% of Canadians believe that the use of technology, such as AI, to assist healthcare professionals will get better over the next 10 years. Not a surprise. We think that AI will help us and help our healthcare professionals do more and do better. We see 52% who say that cures or prevention of diseases will improve. We see only 33% thinking that access to mental health will get better. And then when we look at the orange bars further down, we see that 40% of Canadians believe that the availability of quality healthcare providers will get worse over the next 10 years. 46% expect out-of-pocket costs to get worse, and 50% say wait times are going to get worse. So while we see breakthroughs on the horizon, we also expect bottlenecks to block access. And that stress and that tension between breakthroughs versus bottlenecks doesn't just sit inside the system, it actually spills into everyday life. When access feels uncertain, people start to self-navigate. And now we have so much information at our fingertips. We have food labels, we have wearables, we have clinical portals, we have podcasts, we have symptom checkers, we have TikTok advice. It's very empowering, but it's also noisy and it can be overwhelming. In our data, 65% of Canadians say they do their own research on food, medicine, and lifestyle choices to see which are healthy and which aren't. And yet 67% say there's so much conflicting information online, it's hard to know what to trust. We feel empowered but overwhelmed. And it's really a paradox for us with all that information to be able to do what we want to do, but to feel almost too overwhelmed and over informationed to be able to make a decision. If information is everywhere, who earns trust? Is it humans or is it machines? Or is it both? For Canadians, the answer is both, but with safeguards. Technology is welcomed when it partners with providers, and confidence drops when it goes solo. And I know, Samir, that you're going to have a conversation about this later. Here's how that shows up in the numbers. About half say that if they had access to their full genetic profile, they would use it to guide every aspect of their health, from what they eat to how they plan for retirement. That's an openness to precision guidance that we see will continue to grow. Just under half trust AI when it's used by providers, which really requires that human in the loop threshold for confidence in using technology. And then you look at the number below, only about a quarter would trust AI to make a diagnosis on its own, and around half actually push back. So it really is a hard line without clinical oversight. So what I would say is Canadians are tech positive pragmatists. They say bring the tools, but keep the clinicians in charge and ensure transparency and accountability. That's the bar for trust as technology scales. And even as tools and data improve with clinicians in the loop, the center of gravity for wellness and health is shifting. the drivers underneath many wellness concerns come back to mental health. And that's where many Canadians, and in fact, more people around the world are putting focus today. We see here that nearly 8 in 10 Canadians say they need to do more to look after their physical health. And that's a baseline that we see rising. But what's fascinating is how much this number has increased for mental health. When we see almost the exact same number, 74%, saying that they need to do more to look after their mental well-being, placing mental and physical health on nearly equal footing for the first time. And as we'll talk to Elisa from Kids Health Phone, we see that about 3 in 4 Canadians say that mental health is one of the biggest challenges facing our young people today, signaling a real urgency that we have to address. It's not any longer just about physical health. Mental health is redefining how we talk about wellness as a country and as a people, and where we expect support. So we're going to come back to that as well. What we see is with demand outpacing capacity, Canadians are assembling their own stack, if you will, from virtual therapy and wearables to pharmacist care to private clinics, employer benefits, community supports. And all of this is almost kind of creating and fueling a parallel system where we see self-directed, tech-enabled ecosystems that really sit alongside the traditional system. So it's all working together, kind of collaborating, but also conflicting sometimes, but putting together what's going to work for us in the longer term. I want to pivot a bit and talk about how, as care spills outside the traditional system, the first place it lands is the space we control, and that's home. Nearly 9 in 10 Canadians say their home has a big impact on their health. More than 4 in 5 see home as a sanctuary for recovery and well-being. And nearly half had made changes in the past year to improve the well-being in their home. From layout and light to air quality and sleep routines and smart devices, home is truly becoming a wellness hub, a daily environment where recovery and prevention and habit formation can actually happen. We're going to come back to that with Danielle from IKEA to explore how human-centered design and small space solutions and overall wellness really becomes practical at home. What I think is interesting as we've done this work is that we see that wellness has become a design brief for virtually every category, from grocery aisles and retail checkouts to bank apps and benefit plans. And it's reshaping everything we do. So virtually every industry should have it on their radar. The last industry I'm going to talk about, actually, before I start to talk about food, is travel. About 6 in 10 Canadians say recreation and travel are important to their overall health. Nearly 8 in 10 say time in nature is one of the best ways to improve one's physical and mental health. Thankfully, we are surrounded by wonderful nature here in Canada. And 2 in 5 say that they try to prioritize destinations to support their health and well-being when they travel. Wellness truly is all around us, but nowhere is it more visible than in our daily eating decisions. We ask Canadians to rank the factors that matter most to their personal health, and diet comes out on top, ranked number 1 by about 1 in 3. Genes are second. Exercise and your doctor's role each land in the next tier, while factors like income, where someone lives, their access to private or supplemental health insurance, and national policy fall further down the list in first place rankings. So net, in relative terms, Canadians put food first. Food isn't just fuel, it's seen as the single most powerful driver of personal health. So we're going to build on this when I come back to Assad, who leads our syndicated food and beverage research, to explore what that means. Our team has been doing quite a bit of work with a number of food clients to help them tap into the future of food and its role in wellness. And here are 6 of the trends that we're really watching right now. Personalization, which is all about genetics, microbiomes, AI coaching. We're talking about plant-forward eating and that shift in protein mix and sustainability-driven diets. We're talking about functional foods with ingredients targeting sleep and stress and immunity. We're talking about the ultra processing debate, which is really becoming talked about now with health concerns reshaping what we think about packaged foods. And we think that's going to be a really high priority for people as we look at the next kind of venture in wellness. We can't get away from the conversation around GLP-1s and pharma nutrition and what that appetite suppression will mean for us and how we will actually rethink diet norms. It is truly disruptive. And tech-enabled nutrition. When we have so much information and so much tech at our hands, what will wearables and apps do for us to help turn food into data and what we do? So, food is really rapidly shifting from something you eat to a wellness strategy. And as we look toward the next 5 to 10 years, that's only going to accelerate. So that's enough from me. We've seen how fast this is moving. I want to go ahead and bring in the people who are making this real. Do I have all of you now? Back on the screen? Perfect, perfect. So the first trend I want to talk about with you is about, well, let's start with the first theme, I think, which is about tech-enabled care and what we saw in that data. One of the clearest themes around technology and healthcare, I think we see optimism is very high, but confidence is clearly, let's say, conditional, if you will. So I'm going to start with you, Paula, if that's okay. Can you talk to us? TELUS Health is deeply involved in technology-enabled care. How do you see the line between empowering people with data versus overwhelming them?
Well, that is the starting point. I mean, anything that you put forward, any technology, any innovation, any competence can go in one direction or go in another direction. So people are overwhelmed right now by going out into the public, and as you said, there's TikTok over here, and there's a wearable over here, and there's this over here, and there's that over there, and it can become, almost choking. But at the end of the day, one of the values that we bring is simplification. Like the only way that people feel empowered is if they feel in control. The only way they feel in control is if they feel that they can manage everything that they are seeing. So it's very, very important for us to sort of look at the main benefits the technology has to offer and make sure that they are deployed as benefits. So one of the most obvious ones is access. So virtual care, for example, has opened up a whole world to people who otherwise could not have accessed care because of personal situation, because of perceptions that they might have with respect to stigma, because of location, all of that. We mentioned personalization, which is huge. People don't want generic, and that is going to become more and more of an expectation in our society. People want something that suits them, and on many levels. So my background and my lived experience, my preferences, my life situation, like you can go from there right down to genetics. And I'm glad to see that you touched on that, because I can definitely see that is going to play a bigger role. We already have really impactful and accurate ways of making sure that people, for example, if they're taking mental health or cardiovascular or cancer medication, being guided by their genetics, so they're not going down the path of having something that won't work, or that because of their genetics is going to give them egregious side effects. We know that people metabolize food differently. We know that there is epigenetics where, you know, how you come into the world can be shaped by the experiences that you have. So a fair bit of power is available. But again, going back to the point, if it seems too out of my sphere, if I can't understand it, if it feels overwhelming, not only is it causing me a problem because it's going to increase my stress, which is the last thing that we want to do, but people are going to make poor decisions. They're going to lack trust because they're going to see information that might not be conflicting, but it appears conflicting. So overall, the simplification is important. The other thing is the scale, as I've mentioned, is important. The personalization is important. And all of that goes to what is essential in technology and the way that we're deploying technology, which is more accuracy, more engagement, better outcomes, and very, very, very importantly, power in the hands of the individual.
I love that. What I'm hearing you say is that when we think about tech, it's really kind of sitting behind what you're delivering as opposed to tech as the lead. It's tech as the enabler for delivering the things that you're talking about, for delivering access, for delivering personalization, for delivering better outcomes, which I love. Samir, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute. I would love for you just to talk, because I think this is so in your frame of reference, about what Nia Health is doing. I know you're on the cutting edge of digital first care and data-driven care. Can you give us a broad overview of your platform and then tell us more broadly what you think about this topic of data and tech-enabled care and trust?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, building off of what Paula said, we really actually at NIA have seen the benefit of clinicians in the loop and a clinician first model of care where you integrate all these different disparate sources of data that have come online, whether it be from wearables or other means. But the key is to operationalize it in the mind of the consumer, in the mind of an individual, with the guidance of a trusted kind of clinician partner. So I think, you know, from our viewpoint, what we're seeing on the ground is the clinicians are a super important part of the overall kind of preventative health and proactive health story. Now, Nia Health is Canada's leading proactive health platform, which provides access to over 150 advanced biomarkers, continuous glucose monitoring, wearable integrations. All of our proactive health assessments start with a at-home blood test, clinical grade labs with clinician consults to kind of co-create action plans to get in front of health risks that we identify together. And if we talk about access, being digital first and kind of virtual first as a platform, we're also the most accessibly priced provider in the country, starting at just $299 for our comprehensive checkups. So just maybe one other point to add on this idea of data-driven care and how we're seeing Canadians in particular respond to kind of this new environment where you have a ton of different inputs and trying to figure out for themselves how does that impact the way in which they want to manage their own health. I think the stats that you shared about their reluctance / the overwhelming nature of all the different sources of data they have out there rings very true to us. And I think what Paula talked about in terms of wanting to simplify, and create consumer experiences that actually serve to educate, empower, stimulate behavior change as necessary. As we know, lifestyle drives the majority of a person's risk reduction potential. These are super important pieces of the pie for how we're looking at the world, but how we're seeing consumers on the ground also respond to kind of wanting to be educated and take action on risks that are flagged. I think the other piece of the role of technology in driving kind of healthcare transformation is that, and we're seeing AI come in and a number of competitors in the space in which we play in the US and other geographies, decidedly taking a bet on taking the clinician out of the loop. So this kind of AI doctor in your pocket or clinician in your pocket has kind of become vogue in some circles. We've taken a bet completely against that in the sense that we're using AI. I think everybody is in some way or another these days, but we're using AI to make the clinician as efficient and effective as possible, so that they can build their capacity, but also create experiences for consumers that, I think, again, to Paula's point, are personalized, non-generic things that will actually create behavior change and make people take action on their health journeys.
Right. I love that because I think, Samir, as we look at platforms like yours and like Nia Health, where you see it really helping fill in some of the gaps in the system, right? Where maybe you can't have as much access to your doctor as you would like, or you do want to take a more proactive role in it. It is things like this where we're going to build a system around our clinical tools and our regular doctors, if you will, to create a more robust system, right? As we look at a world of potentially more scarcity in what we traditionally think of as healthcare. I'm going to go over, let's switch topics entirely and talk about, I think the second theme we really see in the data is this idea of the mental health struggles, that people are really starting to recognize how important mental health is to their overall well-being. But then we see the mental health struggles really of young people. And I know that anybody who's a parent and anybody who's an employer and anybody who really cares about the future is thinking about mental health and our youth. I know, Elisa, you are on the front lines of youth mental health. Can you talk about Kids Help Phone a bit and tell us, where you see it, what you're doing, how you're bringing it forward, and what gives you hope? It's a big, broad question.
Yeah. So Kids Help Phone is a charity, and we've been around for 36 years on the front line with young people. All of our services are 24/7, confidential and anonymous, completely free to any young person, coast to coast to coast. And part of what really makes us unique is that we think about ourselves as an innovation technology charity who's laser focused on youth mental health. And that's important because, as we've been talking about, technology and innovation, it's here. We say often at Kids Help Phone that young people are changing faster than ever before. Technology is changing even faster. And we see as our role to try to keep up with young people, to think about how we build scalable solutions for youth mental health that will help young people for any issue, big or small. So we really think about mental wellness all the way to mental illness, everything in between, so that every feeling a young person has, every experience a young person has, we're a place that they can come. What's interesting about some of our work, and I think what surprises a lot of people about our work, is how large we are in terms of the number of young people whose lives we interact with. So since the beginning of 2020, Kids Help Phone has interacted with young people over 22 million times. Last year, about 4 million times. And this is through one-on-one free professional counseling, crisis support, peer-to-peer support. We're in schools, we're in communities. We're working in a way that recognizes the incredible diversity of people in Canada. So we have programs focused on First Nations, Inuit, and Métis young people. We have programs focused on Black youth or newcomer youth, because we really see young people are in crisis in Canada. And so we need to be developing solutions that meet them where they are. And it's interesting, our data shows us about 75% of the young people who come to Kids Help Phone are sharing something with us they have never shared with anybody else.
It's incredible.
And 49% say they would have ignored the issue if they could not have come to us. So what I often talk to Kids Help Phone in our front line about is, we have this one moment. If a young person has the courage, and let's be honest, it takes courage to reach out. So if they have the courage to reach out, I am not okay with a busy signal, a long wait, a service that didn't meet their needs. We have one moment to get it right. And for young people, if we don't get it right then, we're setting them up for a lifetime of potentially believing services don't work. It's not for them. And so over the last few years, what we've been doing is we've been building the largest data set in Canada for youth mental health. We have over 55 million messages in our data set. These are the real words of young people, completely de-identified and anonymized, that allow us to understand today what they're experiencing. Because while I'm on this with you, we're having hundreds of conversations with young people. And so we can then build tools, whether it is something like a resource navigation tool, what services are in your area, whether it is a new peer support tool, all the way to developing AI and the kinds of experiences that young people increasingly are expecting, given what they find in their regular life. And so that data becomes critical. But I loved Samir and Paula were talking a little bit about the clinician. So we have a large group of frontline people. They have to be a part of the conversation. We have to be making tools that make it easier for them to do their job because their job's big. We got a lot of young people in Canada who need us. The one person that, or the one group we haven't touched on a lot for a kids' help phone, where we need youth. We will not design, develop, build, or launch things without young people at the center of it. And often they know what's best for them. They know what they want. They know the experience they need. They will tell you if you spend the time bringing them into the conversation. And so as we think about the youth mental health crisis, I would say it is on us to build, and us collectively, us Canada, to build the kinds of tools that young people and all Canadians need, and to scale them with a mindset that that is possible, because the need is great. And if we are always thinking that it's okay to have long wait lists, or it's okay that you can only have challenges between 9 to 5, we're actually failing the people who need it most. And the people who need it most are all of us, and our families and our communities. So that's some of the work we do.
Holy cow. It's amazing work that you do. It's such important work that you do. And I love, we were fortunate enough to interview your CEO, Kathy Hay, for our white paper on the topic of what the future wellness. And I really loved how she talked about you being a 30-something-year-old startup, because it feels like that's how you're approaching your challenge. You could be very complacent in your approach. But the way you talk about it, it feels like you started up last year, but you have scale. And I love that. I love that. We're going to completely change now, and I'm going to come over to Danielle and talk about, because it's not all about, I think healthcare goes so many places and wellness goes so many places. I would love to hear you talk about how you see the home evolving as a sanctuary for wellness, what you're thinking about it, how you're thinking about it at IKEA, why it's so important to you, both for, I think, your customers and your employers. Employees, excuse me.
Yeah, I'd say those are hard acts to follow. But I think that also gives me hope in the future of wellness for Canada as well, that we have so many brilliant minds in so many diverse spaces trying to tackle the problem of wellness collectively. So that's some optimism there. I think I've forgotten all your questions, Diane. No, I do recall them. But I think as well, I'll start with the first one. For home being a sanctuary of wellness. So one of our researches that we've been doing for more than a decade, called the Life at Home study, it shows us that people's top 3 emotional needs from their homes have stayed remarkably consistent year over year. So it's comfort, enjoyment, and nurturing. And those needs over the years haven't really changed in terms of numbers. But what has changed is the weight we place on the home to deliver them. So we see affordability pressures, there's political uncertainty, and even just the pace of daily life. The home is naturally expected to do more than just to simply provide shelter, right? So it's being asked to actively support well-being, whether that's through better rest, creating spaces that are more flexible, that adapt to both work and family life. And we're juggling a lot of that in our homes every day, or simple marginal improvements like more natural light, air quality, or storage that brings a sense of calm, especially to people like me who are compulsive about these things. So in that sense, the home is no longer just a backdrop. To your question, it's evolving to become an active partner in our wellness journeys. And I think that ties in fairly neatly to what you asked next around how does all of that around home being a sanctuary, around wellness fit into IKEA's philosophy in general. So at least in my mind, wellness connects directly to our vision, which is to create a better everyday life for the many people. So for us, wellness isn't just a separate category, but it's embedded in everything that we do. So our ethos is based on democratic design, which is an approach that balances form, function, quality, sustainability, and price. So that balance is what makes wellness accessible and not exclusive, really. And I think it's not just about designing beautiful spaces, but about creating spaces that help people truly feel better. So you're unwinding, relaxing, and really feeling cared for. And that can mean blackout blinds for a better sleep, air purifiers when it comes to clean air, or any other multifunctional furniture. And I think at this point I'm just actively selling now, so apologies for that. But I think these are small examples of how we've tried to achieve that, because I think wellness shouldn't be a luxury, right? It should be available to the many. And one way we've brought that philosophy around wellness to life recently is through our overarching focus on sleep. So we've been leaning into sleep, as you correctly pointed out as well. And sleep is really one of the critical foundations of wellness. So, I mean, we all hear stats every day. One interesting one is that 1 in 3 adults globally uh, aren't getting enough sleep. And no surprise, but the ripple effects of that are enormous, right? So
Sure.
it impacts our everyday productivity, mood, relationships, so many aspects of our life that we hold so close to ourselves. And we then saw that as an opportunity to help because we are uniquely positioned to provide not just one particular product, but a more complete ecosystem for better sleep. So some of the things that I mentioned earlier, from textiles to smart lighting, all of that come together. So what's powerful is that we can support this entire sleep movement, so to say, and not just one particular piece of it. And most importantly, we attempt to do this at price points that keep it affordable and within the reach of the many, which is really our core purpose, that we're trying to again improve the life for the many.
I
That was a
think that
very long-winded response.
No, it was great. And I think that's so important as, as we talked earlier in my data point, access for everyone to wellness is so key. And that's going to come part of affordability of health and wellness is going to be tantamount as we see, the affordability crisis continues. So we appreciate the efforts that you do against that. I am going to turn, speaking of affordability, I'm going to turn over to Assad and ask him specifically about food. We saw food as really the front line of wellness. People told us they understood that diet comes first, and I know that eating well is evolving fast. Can you talk about food's role in the wellness economy and what's changing and what you're watching for?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually kind of incredible when you showed that stat in terms of the impact food has on people's well-being. I mean, it's more pivotal than genetics and healthcare and exercise. I don't know how that impacts diet and people's excuses to not work out. But I think what you can see is the evolution of consumption as a habit, which is associated with just sustenance, is much more than that. I think it's far more sophisticated in how people want to consume. And I think all the trends that you highlighted is a result of that. So I think one of the factors everyone spoke on, just on technology alone, right? Start with wearable tech. Whether right now it's something just latched onto your skin, but maybe evolves into something you embed within your skin or swallow. You get real-time integration on all of your consumption habits, which triggers what you eat, when you eat, how you eat. It's really impactful on how everyone might change their behavior, right? And then it has a trickle effect on other things, but that's just on the consumption side. Let's talk about decision making when people want to go shop. If you have technology within your fridge that says, well, you're out of milk, well, maybe it's going to be ordering through a delivery platform and comes into your home. So the whole impulse factor is out of the equation in that sense. That changes a lot of marketing habits and technology for businesses as well.
Right.
And, I think just the availability of information as part of technology is a bigger factor in general. I think that's what's informing all of these changes in behavior when people want to eat and drink. They're just much more mindful because they're much more informed as a result. I think that ties into the whole personalization point as well. Our households have been shrinking for a while to begin with. When's the last time we all sat together with our family members or our household members in a dining table and ate together? You have one member of the family coming home from the gym, you have a child coming in from school, they want to eat immediately, or you're coming home from work fairly late. So I think all of these factors tailor things to be made to exactly how you want to consume. It kind of curates that menu, and technology is definitely going to likely accelerate all of these changes as well. But
I think it's really interesting what you talked, and I almost connect you then to Samir as we think about if this is somehow embedded in my life in a more let's say, whether it's empowering or intrusive, however you want to think about it, right? But is it going to start changing habits as well, right? So it's not just I have information, but it's actually changing how I eat and what I eat, so that it's not just I'm making the decision, but it's helping me make the change, if you will, to eat better.
And it gets much more embedded in that behavior, right? It's not just planned, because the toughest thing is to maintain those forced changes in behavior.
Right.
I think it kind of jumps into things that we've seen coming out of the lab and into our homes, such as GLP-1 and Ozempic, as an example. I mean, that was developed for diabetes management, and now we see in our data that a lot of people are using it to manage their weight.
Right.
So that's something that forces change in the market, like in the supply chain.
Yeah.
The volume has an impact on how much people consume. Then maybe packaging or what's on shelf might be smaller because people want to consume less, or what they want to kind of consume, maybe uptake on their protein. So it's kind of very visible in terms of you don't have to force yourself or try hard. It's kind of comes naturally because it's all part of your life.
Right.
But also one other trend that's fairly important to talk about is just about functionality. People are looking for a lot more out of what they eat. It's, like I said, beyond just sustenance. That's what else am I going to get out of consuming? And it's not just the nutritional intake. It's tertiary factors, whether it's about my mood. It's about how well am I going to improve my skin. So anything you see that's got probiotics in it is for your gut health, brain boosting nootropics. I mean, it's kind of endless when it comes to that.
Right.
Non-alcoholic beer has been growing for part of that reason, but you got some of them offering vitamin D. It's random, but it's there.
Yeah.
So there's a multitude of factors, but I'll just finish with Danielle's point that, this has to be equitable. It's demanded across the board. A lot of it is driven by younger people, but you have to cater to the masses because they will be the consumers of the future. So I think it's important for policymakers and businesses to try and figure out how to collaborate to make sure that all of this is accessible to everyone.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I think that's a theme across everything we've talked about. I'm going to close the panel actually with Paula, because I think we've heard themes that are all going to come back to you. In your work through TELUS Health, we know that, there's so much happening and so much is expected about what we should get in our health and wellness benefits beyond even what's offered today. I'd love for you to talk about the biggest changes you're seeing in wellness at work. And I think it touches almost on everything that everyone has talked about. So you're a nice bow tie on this. How are leading organizations talking about all of these issues? And if you can give me 2 minutes on that.
Yeah, I could give you 2 hours or 2 days on it as well, but I think that there is a clearer understanding that what we're collectively, TELUS Health, the employers that we support, we're in the business of population health. And also we help individuals, but it's about raising all boats. So everything from health or lack thereof in terms of distress, pain, helping people deal with what they need to deal with, to wellness, which is around health risk management, to well-being, which is helping people be at the top of their scale. So a couple of challenges that we're seeing that we're responding to with data. Things are changing pretty quickly. So things are changing pretty quickly in terms of just the pace of change in life, the types of challenges we have. We have younger people having more serious cancers. We have increase in mental health issue in the youth that's moving forward. So it's responding to that. And we spend a lot of time with employers around their decision support. So what's happening in the environment that we need to respond to? People are overwhelmed, so how do we further simplify and leave no one behind, which I think is at the root of your question. So inclusive design in terms of a technology, training, and making sure that we have diverse and representative clinicians and counselors, but also realizing that you are leaving people behind if you do not have specific services that'll meet their needs. So we are having a reawakening right now across the world in terms of women's health. It's wonderful. Bringing that to the forefront, making that clear, looking at gender health, just generally speaking, but also realizing that women's health is more than just menopause. Different ways of approaching issues, Indigenous issues, issues in terms of gender identity, and making sure that we have the expertise to support that. And I think this is where size, scope, and partnership really matters, and that's definitely something that TELUS Health is invested in, and definitely something that our employers recognize as critical.
Mm-hmm. I love that, and I so think it brings everybody in this equation, in this conversation, have a role in that, right? And so much of, we spend so much time at our workplaces that it's critical. You have a really critical part and role in this ecosystem to make sure that we're delivering across all fronts and able to support everyone. So thank you for your work. I think we're going to wrap with a quick lightning round for you. So I prepared you, I think. I want each of you to finish this sentence. The future of wellness in Canada will be what? Samir, I'm going to start with you. The future of wellness in Canada will be?
I think it'll be integrated into everyday life, accessible to everyone, not just the privileged few. It's going to combine evidence-based science with compassion, technology with human connection, and hopefully empower people to take control of their health early.
Amazing. Elisa.
So I think the future of wellness will be led by young people who really are the future, who are the ones that have to take our jobs, that have to protect our environment, that have to come up with the solutions that we are still working on or haven't been able to come up with yet. I do think it has to focus on the diverse experiences of young people from coast to coast to coast, with a particular focus on those from equity deserving populations. Because if we don't meet the needs of those, as Samir said, who are right now not accessing supports in the way they need, we are at risk of leaving behind a huge part of our generation and the next generation. And I think that it will be full of hope as we move forward to something that will hopefully work better for all of us.
Amazing. Danielle, the future of wellness in Canada will be.
Yeah, I think just really keeping it short and echoing what's been said time and again. I think the future of wellness will be and should be democratized.
Love it. Paula, I don't know what you could add to this, right? But go ahead.
Well, one thing is I agree with everything that was said, but I have two things. One is that the future of wellness will be empowering, like putting power in the hands of individuals so they have information and can move forward. But also, the future of wellness is critical to the success of our society and our economic success. When we have a challenging, competitive world where things are moving fast, we can't take it for granted because we all need to be at the top of our scale.
Amazing answer. Very additive. Assad, you're in the hot seat. You got to add something to this, or you can just say what they said.
I'll repeat everyone's. That's all I'll say. But it's about personalization, integration, and really that empowerment theme is just consistent, right? And I think people are going to leverage technology to make it kind of more accessible and sustainable. But I think the key is about making it equitable for everyone as well.
I think you're right. I think as we look at this and say, the data can be scary, it's also a very exciting time to be thinking about wellness. And with people like all of you thinking about it every day, and your organizations thinking about it every day, I think, as Danielle said, we have to feel hopeful, right? That we are going to continue in the right direction. Things are going to get harder, but they're also going to get have more people attacking them with more tools and solutions. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. This has been a great conversation. A reminder, the future of wellness isn't just